record to the cloud because hopefully it will work better since I'm using a different audio. But anyway, I am excited to chat about back to school. My kids actually go back to school tomorrow morning, and I'm excited about it. They were in public school last year for part of the year, and then we pulled them out, hired a private tutor, and had them doing school from home just because we were kind of moving between Kansas City and Utah, and I felt bad putting them back and forth between schools. So I'm going to go ahead and just play this slideshow. Hopefully you guys can see it okay and hear me okay. But using my oils during this time of year is awesome. You know, in the summer, I definitely don't use my oils quite as much because we're not as exposed to as many germs and we're not as cooped up. So we're out in the great outdoors and I don't use my oils quite as much. And the second we go back to school, I find myself using my oils a lot more and getting oils on my kids quite a bit more. So I'm going to go through and talk about different topics. And if you can think about things that you want me to go ahead and cover, please do, because I want you to make sure that you feel like you're getting the info that you want from this webinar. So the first thing is I am a huge fan of empowering your kids. You know, get them excited about using oils on their own and have them learn how to use oils on their own. So my top tips, I think I have four things on here, is let them have their own set of oils. So in my girls' room, they have this little pink oil stand that holds several of their favorite oils, and they have their own diffuser. And I love to see their little creativity come through when I see what oils they put in their diffuser at night or during the day. And sometimes it comes with some encouragement from me because I'm like, hey, your room stinks. You need to diffuse some orange or lemon or purify or something. And sometimes it's coming up with things that they just want on their own, which is awesome. And I do have help from my 3-year-old right here. I am letting him play his Nintendo Switch, which I save it for stuff like this when I need to be able to focus on this. But he's sitting right here with me, which I love. So my kids have their own set of oils, and I let them pick what it is they have. And I love the principle of intuitive oil usage. Okay, no talking, or you're going to have to go somewhere else. I like the idea of intuitive oil usage. You know, a lot of times we get our oils and we doubt our abilities to pick the right oil. You'll think, I don't know how to use this, or I'm not quite sure what oil that I should be using, and you get nervous. Well, the beauty of the oils is that you really can't use an oil a wrong way. I mean, there may be oils that may be more effective for certain ailments than others, but every oil has a benefit to it. You know, if you were to take a medication for like an ear infection or something like that and not truly have an ear infection, then that medication is not going to positively affect your body in any way. In fact, it's only going to be negative for it. Essential oils have the opposite effect of, you know what, whether or not you have an ear infection, if you decided to use some tea tree oil and some frankincense and lavender, all of those things are going to have a positive impact on your body, whether or not you actually have an ear infection. So you're not going to harm yourself by using an oil that maybe your body doesn't need as much as it needs something else, because it can still definitely use it. So, you know, sometimes an oil, you just think, you know what, I'm going to try tea tree or I'm going to try lavender. Just go with that. You know, a lot of times you'll kind of have like a little inkling of maybe what you should use. Just go with that. And I always encourage my kids to do the same. You know, if they tell me, oh my goodness, I have a stomach ache, I'll say, what oil do you think you should use? And a lot of times they'll say peppermint or digest zen or ginger. Like, they'll come to me with what they think they might use. And I will, of course, offer them some suggestions of things that I think that might help. I'm not just going to, you know, say, oh yeah, that lavender is going to be great for your stomach. I'll encourage them to use some other things as well. But I love to let them decide what they might need because it helps them to learn how to use their oils. Letting your kids make their own blends can also be really fun. My son went on a little play date with his friend Brielle last fall, and they made their own oil blend, and they're at her house, and he was so excited about it. And he still asks me, hey mom, can I make my own oil? So again, that's where you can put your intuitive oil usage to work and say, well, what oils do you think you might like in the blend? And let them come up with their own blend, which can be fun. And then let them have a diffuser in their room and pick what oils they diffuse at night. So empower your kids. And all of this can go for yourself. Hey, I'm going to go somewhere else. I will move. Sorry. Maddox, I'm going to take your thing away if you keep talking. Anyway, so teach you, and you can use this for yourself. So if you're feeling kind of like, well, what do I do? You know, follow your intuition. And if you have a book or if you have the Modern Essentials app, you can always check to see, what oils might work, but it's fun to kind of play around with them. So some kids, it was interesting, I went to back to school night, and some kids were super excited and confidently walked into the room, and other kids were more nervous than others, and they, kind of had their head down. They were nervous to meet their teacher, and they were unsure of going to school. And a lot of kids might have those. So one line that doTERRA, excuse me, I did not sleep well last night. I keep yawning. But I love the kids line doTERRA released last year, and I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to look it up real fast for you. So I'm going to look up doTERRA Kids Collection. So this is a line that was released last year. And there are 6 oils in here, and they all come in a little carabiner, like that they could maybe put on their backpack. And I realize some schools have different standards with oils than others. Some schools are absolutely no aromatherapy. Some schools will let the teachers diffuse in the classroom. But doTERRA does have this kids line that's really beneficial for kids. And one of my favorite oils in there is called, I like Thinker, but I really like the oil Brave. This shows you the whole set right here. And there's flashcards that come with it that show you different oil, like what the oils are good for. So there's Thinker, that's going to be good for focus, and I'll talk about that in a minute. There's Calmer, and that can help kids sleep. Stronger is a really good protective blend, so that's going to be good for, maybe things that On Guard would be good for. Rescuer is an oil that's very similar to Deep Blue, but it's like Deep Blue for kids. And then there is going to be Steady, which is going to be a grounding blend. So if your kids are feeling nervous and anxious about school, Steady might be a really good one, and then Brave is another one. It's the Courage blend, and Brave is my personal favorite out of all of the kids collection oils that doTERRA has. It's one of my favorites. Now, another thing that I'll do is I'll let my kids, pick their own oils. Like sometimes I'll pull out some Epsom salts and say, hey, do you guys want to make some bath salts? And that's how I find out what oils do they like, because they'll be trying them out, and they'll get really excited because they're like, hey, I really like this oil. And I get an idea of what they like. And that oil can a lot of times be used to help them to feel more confident. So maybe putting some Brave on them the night before or the morning they go to school, or some Calmer, or what was the other one? Steady. Those would be some good ones to get them ready for school. Now, not sleeping well. I have a brother-in-law who has a PhD in mental health. So he's not a psychiatrist, but he's a nurse practitioner that works in a psychiatrist's office. And he is huge on sleep. He just says, you know what? I don't even want to talk about their depression or their anxiety or whatever is going on until we get their sleep figured out. Because, yes, depression and anxiety are so real. But oftentimes, if we can get your sleep under control, then it's going to make all the difference in the world with those other things you're feeling. And a lot of times he's finding, and he works with kids, is if I can get their sleep under control and get them sleeping well, then they don't struggle as much with things like anxiety or depression or things like that. So I'm big on using oils to help my kids sleep. Now, doTERRA does have the Serenity soft gels, and I do use those on my kids sometimes. For me, I take 2 about 30 minutes before I go to bed. So if I'm going to have my kids use it, I give them 1 about 30 minutes before bed. All of my kids, including my 3-year-old, can swallow the pills. It's awesome. I literally put it on their tongue and hand them water and say, here you go, swallow. So that's one thing that you can try with them is that Serenity soft gel. Just give them a half dose. And then, so here's I put some other oils on here that I really like for sleeping. Cedarwood and Balance mixed together can be really good. A lot of times, if you'll use a lavender or Serenity or a calming oil to fall asleep, if you'll use a citrus oil, it will help you to stay asleep, which is amazing. So one of my favorite to blend, and I actually have it going in my diffuser right now, is I have Citrus Bliss and Serenity mixed together. It's like a really amazing combination. And what I like about it is the Serenity is going to help me to relax and fall asleep. And then that Citrus Bliss is going to help me to stay asleep, because I have been waking up at about 4 a.m. every single morning, and I'm not ready to wake up then. That's not my preferred wake up time. So I really like that Serenity and Citrus Bliss mix, or just Serenity and orange, or lavender and orange. You can mix a lot of them together. I've done balance and orange together. Another combo that I love for sleeping, and you can even do this in a roller bottle, is Vetiver, Balance, and Serenity. I heard it called Toes in the Sand blend. I don't know that it reminded me of having my toes in the sand, but it was a very relaxing, calming, and grounding mix, and that I absolutely loved. So Vetiver is also a really good oil for sleep as well. So here are some of my favorites, and you'll definitely find others that you like, but this might be a really good starting place. What? Okay, sounds good. At least he's not screaming. So now with back to school, we get a lot of germs. That's when people start freaking out about kids getting sick more because they're in a confined space, and that is why people get more sick. You know, I think a lot of times people are like, oh, in the cold, germs that, spread more. Well, it's because we're inside and windows are shut and we're all breathing in the same air over and over again. I just went to my kids' school. This is their first time attending this particular school, and it's definitely an older school. I'm pretty sure it was around when my parents were attending the college across the street. I need you to stop talking to me, okay? Okay, thank you. But it's an older school, and there's not a lot of ventilation. I'm like, oh, good. My kids are going to be sharing all sorts of germs. And one thing that I forgot to put in this slideshow is I think one of the things that is key for health is eating well. And sometimes kids don't eat well. And I understand. I have kids that are super picky, and sometimes it is so hard to get them to eat what I want them to eat. And sometimes I get so frustrated because I'm just thinking, eat your vegetables, eat your broccoli, eat your rice, eat whatever. Like, I want you to eat your food. But doTERRA does have vitamins that are good. They have 3 things that I like to give to my kids. They've got an E omega for kids. So they have the same thing for kids that they've had for adults. They just have it in a kid's form. So they have a kid's chewable vitamin. I will be honest, my kids we call it happy candy. That's how I had to sell it to them. It's not the tastiest vitamin. It's not a gummy. It's not going to be super sweet and sugary, but it is a good solid vitamin that is going to help your kids get the nutrients that they may be missing out on. The other thing that I love is their probiotic. I think gut health, especially when they're at school and they're exposed to hand sanitizers and washing their hands all the time, it can really mess with their gut health. And your gut health can affect so much with your brain, your thinking, your cognitive abilities, but it also can affect your immune system as well. So I'm really big on my kids having a probiotic every day, and doTERRA's probiotic is called PB Assist Junior. Now, again, if you're listening to this and you don't have kids and you're thinking, how does this apply to me? It does apply to you, because kids and adults, it's the same thing. We need to make sure that our guts are in balance, and doTERRA has a really great probiotic for adults as well. The kids happens to be my favorite because it's like you're taking a little pixie stick, which I really like, and it tastes really good. I think it's sweetened with xylitol. I can't remember exactly what they have in it, but it's not sugar, which is nice. And that's going to help balance their gut, so they're going to be healthier. That's going to be huge. So doTERRA has the On Guard oil. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that. And the On Guard oil is going to be really good for immune systems. Like, that's my go-to to make sure that my immune system stays in check. And I have a diffuser in every room in my house. I have one in my kids' bathroom. I have one in my bathroom. I have one in each of their bedrooms, my guest bedrooms, my kitchen, my bedroom. They really are all over. And one of the things that I love to diffuse is the On Guard, just because it's so good at killing the bad germs, but keeping the good bacteria alive and well, because they play such a critical role in our health. doTERRA has an On Guard hand sanitizer, and it is one of my favorite things to just leave in my purse. I don't send it with my kids only because I don't want them to lose it. But in the past, I have a son who's asthmatic, and I've talked to the teacher about the fact that I don't want him using perfumed sanitizers because they can really cause problems for him. And so I will tell them I need Hudson to have his own hand sanitizer. So there are ways to work around school rules when oils may not be allowed, and that's one of them. Is, it is quite frankly not healthy. Hand sanitizers actually can be very detrimental for your health. And so, and for my kids, it really is a respiratory thing. And so what I'll tell them is, if you want to, I really need my kids having a sanitizer without synthetics in it. And so I'll either make one, which always has On Guard, or I'll send them with the On Guard spray, which is awesome. On Guard products in general are awesome. So like in our house, I have On Guard hand soap at every single sink. because it's constantly exposing your body to On Guard. And that's going to strengthen your immune system, which is really awesome. So I'll keep moving on. Focus oils. Now, there was a really interesting study. I think sometimes we get caught up on using a particular oil for focus and, paying attention. But what this study was showing is that if you will smell an oil while you study, if you will smell that same thing when you go to take your test, it will help you with memory recall. Because it's like, oh yeah, last time I smelled peppermint, I was reading about this, and on this side of the page, I read this information about, whatever it is. But there are some oils that are still good with, for cognitive and focus and memory, things like that. So Thinker oil is going to be really good for kids. I really like the Thinker oil because my kids just loved the fact that they had oils designed for kids was very exciting for them. And in the morning last year when I was sending them to school, they would come and ask me, what oils can I put on? And I would let them pick, what oil do you feel like you need today? And it wasn't that they couldn't have more than one, but I let them pick what they wanted. But Thinker is a good focus oil. Peppermint and orange combination is really good for focusing. Rosemary can be good for memory. And Intune is another good one. Now, if you're feeling nervous about, well, my teacher won't let my kids have this oil at school, there's a couple of things you can do. You can get some aromatherapy jewelry, or you can make sure that the oils actually get on their clothes. Because there have been times I just had, my back was really bothering me, and so I had this blend that had wintergreen on it, and I sprayed it all over my back, and then in a spray bottle, and I went and laid on my bed. I still can smell it on my pillowcases. So if you want your kids to be able to smell that oil and have that aromatherapy that's going to help them to really focus, make it, have them get a little bit on their shirt or whatever it is that they can smell. You could put it up, the top of their shirt or whatever. Same thing for you. Except adults typically are allowed to use their oils when they want to. Or you can get aromatherapy jewelry, like you can get the little lava stone necklace or a bracelet. Or I have gone into the school and said, here's the deal. I can use medication that causes my children some side effects that aren't helpful for them. They tend to lose weight. They're more agitated. It causes depression when it comes off of it. So, we've been working closely with the doctor, and this is what works for us. Now, I understand you don't want the oil in the classroom, and that's okay. But if they can come to the nurse's office, then they can use that oil. And if they ever say anything about the smell maybe bothers them to other people, I point out the fact that there's synthetic essential oils in other kids' lotions. My girls come home from school, and I'm like, I get in the car, and I'm like, what's that smell? Oh, I use Morgan's hand sanitizer, or she had lotion, or, their lip balm. Like, I can smell the fragrances in that. So I'll always say, well, this is a fragrance we like. Other kids get to have it in their hairspray or their lotion or whatever. This is actually going to help them with their focus. And if it needs to stay in the nurse's office, I'm okay with that if they can come in and use it a couple of times a day. So that's what I do, especially for my kids that have ADHD. And then I don't necessarily feel like they're at a point where they need medication, but I want them to be able to have the same support, and I want them to be able to use oils that I know are going to help them. So working with the school nurse can help. Okay, flu. So now that we're getting back to school, I know that we're going to see, the cold and flu start to show up. I know it usually doesn't happen until winter time, but it's always on your mind. Kids tend to get sick, and maybe if it's not the official flu, they still have something that's really bogging down their system. This blend that I have on here is one of my all-time favorite blends for being sick. I have shared it with so many people, and I've had so many people come back to me and say, what is that? I want to use that. And so what I actually do is I just make a roller bottle. So I'll get a 10 ml bottle, and I will fill it up with probably 30 drops of each, maybe 25 of these oils. And then I fill it the rest of the way with fractionated coconut oil. And one fun thing that you can do with your roller bottles that will help you is when you order from doTERRA, you can get the sticker caps. They're 50 cents, and and it has all the oils that doTERRA has, like on a little sticker. You can put it on the top of your bottle, but if it's a roller bottle, I'll literally just put it down the side of the bottle. Like, I'll put a little sticker of all the different oils that are in there so I know what blend it is. So this is one of my all-time favorite blends for being under the weather. Arbor Vitae, Helichrysum, Purify Lime, I swear by it. Whenever my kids get sick, this is what they get. If they ever get a fever, I'm going to be using lavender, patchouli, and frankincense and peppermint. Lavender, frankincense, patchouli, peppermint. And I roll it on their spines. Can you guys still hear me okay? My phone had kind of fallen down. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. But that is one of my all-time favorite blends for when they do get sick or when they have a fever. I have my favorite respiratory blend on here, so if they've got a cough, any sort of respiratory gunk, I love a fir oil. That's one of my favorites. Make sure you guys can hear me okay. Yes, you can hear me. Okay, perfect. So a fir oil is good. So they've either got Douglas fir or Siberian fir. If you are lucky, you'll have white fir. That is an oil that doTERRA used to sell, but the white fir was not sustainable, and doTERRA decided to replace white fir with Siberian fir because Siberian fir goes like crazy in New Zealand, and it's like, it is a nuisance. So very sustainable. So any sort of fir oil is going to be really good for respiratory. Marjoram can be really good, lime, and then brie. So this is another blend I make with these 4 oils. That's another go-to that I have. And I didn't get it on here, but I know that a lot of times when kids go back to school, we start getting nervous about lice. Oh, something I don't ever want to stress about. Like, I think I have a friend who is like so terrified of bed bugs, and I am so terrified of lice. And I think they're both like kind of the same thing, where they kind of can be all over, and it can be a nightmare to get rid of it. But one thing that you can do is you can wash their hair with tea tree. So basically, I will use tea tree oil in their shampoo. So every time you wash their hair, you can throw in some tea tree oil. If there ever is an outbreak or it's something that you're worried about, you can. I make my own hairspray, and I know you guys are going to think I've flown the coop, but I made my own hairspray one time, and it doesn't even have to be hairspray because I realized, like, my boys don't need hairspray in their hair per se, but you know, like if you ever spray your hair with, this is my mom's hack. My kids wake up and their hair is crazy, so I'll just get a spray bottle and I'll spray their hair. And in that, you can add some essential oils. You could put lavender in there, you could put tea tree oil in there, and that is going to help protect them against lice. So that's one of my favorite hacks for one of those, you know, super fun things that we deal with when our kids go back to school. And now I wanted to open it up to you and have any questions. What kind of questions do you guys have of things that I may not have gone over? Or do you feel like you're feeling ready for back to school? And you know, this can be great for adults too. I had someone message me and say, oh, the kids are back in school. This is my friend in Hawaii. And she's like, the kids are back in school, and oh my gosh, I'm already sick. Because you come in, you're coughing, you're prepared and ready to go. Sounds like you're feeling prepared and ready to go. So I'm hopeful that you learned a helpful tip with back to school. I think my biggest takeaways for this is let your kids have their own set of oils. The kids collection is awesome. My kids each don't have their own set. They do share. I actually just keep it in my closet in my hallway. Excuse me. And I let them every morning decide what oil that they would like to take before they go to school. So my biggest takeaway is just empower those kids. Let them experiment. Let's see if we have a question. Okay, I'm glad that you thought this was a great class. Thank you, Jolene. I appreciate that. So next week we will have 3 more classes. So I'm going to do just a basic 101, and that one I'll go over a little bit more specifics about doTERRA. And then every time I do that class afterwards, I do a business class, and then I think it's the next night I'm going to be doing a class that's a new one I haven't done before, and it's called, okay, I decided I want to build, now what? So you decided you want to build, what are the next steps? So that'll be a good thing that I would recommend everybody join in on. I'd love to have you attend. And thank you so much for being on this evening. And good luck with your back to school.